Okay, Boker Tov. Good morning. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. And Hag Sameach. Happy festival.
Oh, here we go.
Would you prefer this one? Okay. Day one stuff, man.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
You gotta turn it back on.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yay.
Hallelujah. Well, my name is John Cordaro, and I am a member of the host group. And I'd like to welcome you to Sukkot 2020.
Yes.
Hallelujah. Praise Yahweh that you're all able to be here today. And I hope our host group will be a blessing to you all, and that you will be a blessing to us in fellowship and participation and in serving one another.
Amen.
If for some reason I end up looking at the ceiling or I'm looking at the floor like this, it's because I'm having a senior moment and I forgot what I wanted to say. Right? Okay. All right, so let's open up with a word of prayer first. Hallelujah. Praise you and bless you, Heavenly Father Yahweh. Thank you so much, Father, for all your blessings this past year. Thank you for this Sukkot, this Feast of Tabernacles, where we can give you thanks and praise for all your blessings that you provided for us. We thank you for your son Yeshua. Thank you for all the brethren that are here today. And I just pray your blessings upon each one of us. In Yeshua's name. Amen. All right, let's see if this thing works. Fantastic. Okay, so this is Leviticus 23:33. Again, Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the sons of Israel, saying, on the 15th day of the 7th month is Hag Sukkot." Okay, that's the Hebrew name for this festival. The NASB reads the Feast of Booths, and the King James reads the Feast of Tabernacles. So we have 3 different names for this feast. And you're going to keep it for 7 days to Yahweh. On the first day is a holy convocation. That's today, first day. And you shall do no laborious work of any kind. For 7 days you shall present an offering by fire to Yahweh. On the 8th day you shall have a holy convocation and present an offering by fire to Yahweh. It is an assembly, you shall do no laborious work. So the 8th day will fall next Sabbath, next Shabbat. On exactly the 15th day of the 7th month, which is today, when you have gathered in the crops of the land, you shall celebrate the feast of Yahweh for 7 days, with a rest on the first day and a rest on the 8th day. Now on the first day you shall take for yourselves the foliage of beautiful trees, palm branches and boughs of leafy trees, and willows of the brook, and you shall rejoice before Yahweh your Elohim for 7 days. You shall thus celebrate it as a feast to Yahweh for 7 days in the year. It shall be a perpetual statute throughout all your generations. You shall celebrate it in the 7th month. You shall live in booths for 7 days. All the native born in Israel shall live in booths, so that your generations may know that I had the sons of Israel live in booths when I brought them out from the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh your Elohim. And so Moses declared to the sons of Israel the appointed times of Yahweh. This is just an example of different kinds of sukkah. Sukkah is the singular and sukkot would be the plural. So you can decorate your sukkah any way you want, build it any way you want. Most of you will be dwelling in the variation on the bottom right.
It's a temporary dwelling.
So it's a temporary one. It's not quite up to rabbinic code, which requires you to be able to see the stars through the roof.
Yeah.
But we have the more functional, solid roof to protect you from rain and solid walls to protect you from wildlife.
Well, there you go.
Some of them even come pre-decorated with moss and leaves on the roof. Just to give you an idea of where we are in location compared to Jerusalem, the map on the right, that red circle, that's Israel there, and Jerusalem is on the 31.7 degrees north latitude. On the left map, where that little X is on the coastline there, that's where we are right now. And that's at the 38.5 degree north latitude. So we're quite a ways north compared to Jerusalem. And so when Yahweh commanded the Israelites to keep that in Jerusalem, they were in a much warmer, nicer climate to rejoice and build and live outside in your sukkah and stuff like that. So I think he'll have mercy on us for dwelling in these cabins, no problem.
Absolutely.
Okay, Deuteronomy 16:13. You shall celebrate the Feast of Booths 7 days after you have gathered in from your threshing floor and from your wine vat. Okay, so this feast is celebrated after the crops are in. You shall rejoice in your feast, you and your son and your daughter and your male and female servants, and the Levite and the stranger and the orphan and the widow who are in your towns. 7 days you shall celebrate a feast to Yahweh your Elohim in the place which Yahweh chooses, because Yahweh your Elohim will bless you in all your produce and in all the work of your hands, so that you will be altogether joyful. So this is the biblical feast of Thanksgiving. 3 times in a year all your males shall appear before Yahweh your Elohim in the place which he chooses, at the feast of unleavened bread, at the feast of weeks, and at the feast of booths. They shall not appear before Yahweh empty-handed. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of Yahweh your Elohim, which he has given you. So Yahweh not only commands us to be joyful during his feast, but he commands us to give an offering commensurate with how much he's blessed us with. So if you feel led to give such an offering, there's an offering box on the back table back there to do that. Exodus 23:16, also you shall observe the feast of harvest of the first fruits of your labors from what you sow in the field. Also the feast of ingathering at the end of the year, when you gathered in the fruit of your labors from the field. So the feast of ingathering is another name for Sukkot. It pertains to gathering in all your crops. And once that's done, then you can celebrate and give thanks to Yahweh. It's celebrated at the end of the year. I believe that means the end of the agricultural year, not the end of the civil year, which would end on the day before Yom Teruah, or it's not the end of the religious year either, which would be the day before Aviv 1. So this is the end of the agricultural year. This feast is also called the Festival of Nations, not only because people from all nations throughout the world come to Jerusalem for the feast, but because during the feast there were 70 bulls that were sacrificed throughout the feast period. And it's believed that those 70 bulls correspond to the 70 nations that existed in Moses' day.
Yes.
Okay. Today it is over 200 nations. That would be an awful lot of bulls to sacrifice. Festival is also called Hahag, or just the festival, because the rabbis believed it was just such a joyful time that it just needed those 2 words to identify it. This is the most applicable name for this feast as far as my message is concerned, the season of our joy, or Zaman Simchatenu, and you'll understand why in the next 2 slides. 1 Kings 8:65, so Solomon observed the feast at the time, and all Israel with him, a great assembly from the entrance of Hamath to the brook of Egypt before Yahweh or Elohim for 7 days, and 7 more days, even 14 days. On the 8th day he sent the people away, and they blessed the king. And they went to their tents, joyful and glad of heart for all the goodness that Yahweh had shown to David his servant and to Israel his people. Okay, so this is definitely a time of great joy for all of Israel. But it's believed that this verse is teaching us that they kept Sukkot for 14 days, which is really not the case, as you'll see in a minute. This is Brenton's Septuagint version of 1 Kings 8:65. And Solomon kept the feast in that day, and all Israel with him, even a great assembly from the entering in of Hamath to the river of Egypt, before Yahweh or Elohim, or the Lord our God, in the house which he built, eating and drinking and rejoicing before the Lord our God 7 days. So this version says they kept the feast for 7 days. Now, 2 Chronicles 7:8 in the NASB reads, "So Solomon observed the feast at that time for 7 days, and all Israel with him, a very great assembly who came from the entrance of Hamath to the brook of Egypt. On the 8th day they held a solemn assembly. For the dedication of the altar they observed 7 days, and the feast 7 days. Then on the 23rd day of the 7th month, he sent the people to their tents, rejoicing and happy of heart, because of the goodness that Yahweh had shown to David and to Solomon and to his people Israel." So this is a parallel passage in 2 Chronicles 7:8 that's telling us that the 14 days are actually comprised of 7 days for dedicating the altar, and then another 7 days for celebrating the feast. Well, of course, in this version as well, they're rejoicing and they're happy of heart. That's a major theme of this feast, rejoicing and joy. Nehemiah 8:14, they found written in the law of how Yahweh had commanded through Moses that the sons of Israel should live in booths during the feast of the 7th month. So they proclaimed and circulated a proclamation in all their cities and in Jerusalem, saying, "Go out to the hills and bring olive branches and wild olive branches, myrtle branches, palm branches, branches of other leafy trees, to make booths as it is written." So the people went out and brought them and made booths for themselves, each on his roof and in their courts and in the courts of the house of Elohim, and in the square at the water gate and in the square at the gate of Ephraim. The entire assembly of those who had returned from the captivity made booths and lived in them. The sons of Israel had indeed not done so from the days of Joshua, the son of Nun, to that day, and there was great rejoicing. Okay, at this point, I'm just going to start transitioning into the theme I spoke about, which is joy. But it's not going to be the joy that we're used to, the joy that we're experiencing now. So the joy that we can experience now is indeed a wonderful blessing and a great thing to experience. But the joy I want to discuss is the joy that lies ahead in our future.
Yes.
Okay? So I'm going to take this from Hebrews 12:1 and 2. "Therefore, since we have so great a cloud of witnesses surrounding us, let us also lay aside every encumbrance and the sin which so easily entangles us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, fixing our eyes on Yeshua, the author and perfecter of faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of Elohim." So, those days before Yeshua died were not joyful time for Yeshua. I mean, he suffered more than any man should ever have to suffer, and he did it for us. But one of the things that helped him to overcome and endure all that he went through was the joy that was set before him, or the joy that lied ahead in his future. And those same joys lie ahead in our future. Okay? So when we're faced with trials or tribulations, we can look to the joy that's set before us, and that'll help us to overcome, not fall away. Because when the trials and tribulations hit, it's a really difficult time. And a lot of thoughts can go through your mind like, am I a reprobate? Am I a castaway? Has Yahweh left me forever? Why isn't he blessing me anymore? But all these things go through your mind. But when you have these verses in your mind about what joys lie ahead in your future, you can overcome and endure them, and persevere through them. So I'm going to present you with a lot of verses in the Bible, starting in the Old Testament, going right through into the New Testament, and hopefully you'll hide these verses in your heart and call upon them when you need them. So the first one is Ezekiel 28:24. "And there will be no more for the house of Israel a prickling briar or a painful thorn from any round about them who scorn them. Then they will know that I am Adonai Yahweh. Thus says Adonai Yahweh, when I gather the house of Israel from the peoples among whom they are scattered, I will manifest my holiness in them in the sight of the nations. Then will they live in their land which I gave to my servant Jacob. They will live in it securely, and they will build houses, plant vineyards, and live securely when I execute judgments upon all who scorn them round about them. Then they will know that I am Yahweh their Elohim. So one of the joys we can look forward to is that Yahweh is going to regather the scattered Israelites, the house of Israel, throughout the entire world, and bring them back to the promised land in which they're going to dwell securely forever. Now, we won't have any fear whatsoever of any enemies attacking them. That's their land, that's their home forever. Ezekiel 36:24, for I will take you from the nations and gather you from the land and bring you into your own land. And then I will sprinkle clean water on you, and you will be clean. I will cleanse you from all your filthiness and from all your idols. Moreover, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you, and I will remove the heart of stone from your flesh and give you a heart of flesh. This is all new covenant language. So when they are regathered back into the land, Yahweh's going to have them enter into that new covenant that was promised in Jeremiah 31. Verse 27, I will put my spirit within you and cause you to walk in my statutes, and you will be careful to observe my ordinances. You will live in the land that I gave you to your fathers, and you will be my people, and I will be your Elohim. Moreover, I will save you from all your uncleanness, and I will call for the grain and multiply it, and I will not bring a famine on you. I will multiply the fruit of the tree and the produce of the field, so that you will not receive again the disgrace of famine among the nations. And so when Israel is going to be regathered into a beautiful, fruitful land that's going to provide for them fully. Ezekiel 36:33, thus says Adonai Yahweh, on that day that I cleanse you from all your iniquities, I will cause the cities to be inhabited, and the waste places will be rebuilt. The desolate land will be cultivated instead of being a desolation in the sight of everyone who passes by. They will say, this desolate land has become like the Garden of Eden, and the waste, desolate, and ruined cities are fortified and inhabited. Then the nations that are left round about you will know that I, Yahweh, have rebuilt the ruined places and planted that which was desolate. I, Yahweh, have spoken it and will do it. Thus says Adonai Yahweh, this also I will let the house of Israel ask me to do for them. I will increase their men like a flock for sacrifices, like the flock at Jerusalem during her appointed feast. So will the waste cities be filled with flocks of men, and they will know that I am Yahweh. So the promised land is going to become like the Garden of Eden.
Yes.
I mean, right now in Israel, only about 20% of that land is suitable for growing crops. But when they come back, it's going to be just totally fruitful throughout the entire land. This is the prophecy of the valley of dry bones. The hand of Yahweh was upon me, and he brought me out by the Spirit of Yahweh and set me down in the middle of the valley, and it was full of bones. He caused me to pass among them round about, and behold, there were very many on the surface of the valley, and lo, they were very dry. And he said to me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Adonai Yahweh, you know. Again he said to me, prophesy over these bones, and say to them, O dry bones, hear the word of Yahweh. And thus says Adonai Yahweh to these bones, behold, I will cause breath to enter you, that you may come to life. I will put sinews on you, and make flesh grow back on you, cover you with skin, and put breath in you, that you may come alive, and you will know that I am Yahweh. So I prophesied as I was commanded, and as I prophesied, there was a noise, and behold, rattling, and the bones came together, bone to its bone.
Yes.
And I looked, and behold, sinews were on them, and flesh grew, and skin covered them, but there was no breath in them. And then he said to me, prophesy to the breath, prophesy, son of man, and say to the breath, thus says Adonai Yahweh, come from the four winds, O breath, and breathe on these slain, that they come to life. So I prophesied as he commanded me, and the breath came into them, and they came to life and stood on their feet, an exceeding great army. And then he said to me, Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. Behold, they say, our bones are dried up, and our hope is perished. We are completely cut off. Therefore prophesy and say to them, thus says Adonai Yahweh, behold, I will open your graves and cause you to come up out of your graves, my people, and I will bring you into the land of Israel. Then you will know that I am Yahweh when I have opened your graves and caused you to come out of your graves, my people. I will put my spirit within you, and you will come to life, and I will place you on your own land, and then you will know that I, Yahweh, have spoken it and done it, declares Yahweh. A lot of people believe this has a figurative application to Yahweh pouring out His Spirit on Israel, on living people, and they're becoming more spiritually minded and that type of thing. I take this literally to mean Yahweh is going to resurrect the Israelites up out of the grave. At the time He regathers Israel, He's not just going to regather those that are alive at the time of the regathering. He's going to regather the dead as well, resurrect them and bring them right back to the land.
Yes.
Hallelujah.
So hallelujah, this is something to rejoice for and look forward to. This is the prophecy of the two sticks. The word of Yahweh came again to me, saying, and you, son of man, take for yourself one stick and write on it for Judah and for the sons of Israel, his companions. Then take another stick and write on it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and all the house of Israel, his companions. And then join them for yourself, one to another, into one stick, that they may become one in your hand. When the sons of your people speaking to you, saying, will you not declare to us what you mean by these? Say to them, thus says Adonai Yahweh, behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribe of Israel, his companions, and I will put them with it, with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they will be one in my hand. The sticks on which you write will be in your hand before their eyes. Say to them, thus says Adonai Yahweh, behold, I will take the sons of Israel from among the nations where they have gone, and I will gather them from every side and bring them into their own land. And I will make them one nation in the land, on the mountains of Israel, and one king will be king for all of them. And they will no longer be two nations, and no longer be divided into two kingdoms.
Yes.
So Israel has been dwelling as a divided kingdom for thousands of years. Now they're a scattered kingdom. But the time's going to come when Yahweh's going to bring them back to the land, and they are going to become one kingdom once again. The house of Israel and the house of Judah joined together as one kingdom. Yes?
The mend already started in the past decade.
Louder?
This mend is already started in the past decade.
I agree. Some are starting to come back. Yes. But His fullness is going to happen when Yahweh takes the whole house of Israel and resurrects the dead and bring them all back. Ezekiel 37:23, they will no longer defile themselves with their idols or with their detestable things or with any of their transgressions, but I will deliver them from all their dwelling places in which they have sinned, and will cleanse them, and they will be my people, and I will be their Elohim. My servant David will be king over them, and they will all have one shepherd. They will walk in my ordinances and keep my statutes and observe them. They will live on the land that I gave to Jacob my servant, in which your fathers lived, and they will live on it, they and their sons' sons forever. And David my servant will be their prince forever. I will make a covenant of peace with them. It will be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply them, and will set my sanctuary in their midst forever. My dwelling place also will be with them, and I will be their Elohim, and they will be my people. And the nations will know that I am Yahweh, who sanctifies Israel, when my sanctuary is in their midst forever. A lot of people believe that David is put here for Messiah Yeshua, that this is really talking about Messiah Yeshua. I personally believe it's talking about the literal King David, who's going to be resurrected from the dead as well when Israel's gathered back into the land, and he's going to be the king over Israel. Yeshua is going to be the king over the entire world, so he'll also be king over David, and Yahweh is going to be king over David and Yeshua. So that's how I understand this prophecy. Joel 3:17, then you will know that I am Yahweh your Elohim, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain, and so Jerusalem will be holy, and strangers will pass through it no more. And in that day the mountains will drip with sweet wine, and the hills will flow with milk, and all the brooks of Judah will flow with water, and a spring will go out from the house of Yahweh to water the valley of Shittim. Egypt will become a waste, and Edom will become a desolate wilderness, because of the violence done to the sons of Judah, in whose land they had shed innocent blood. But Judah will be inhabited forever, and Jerusalem for all generations. So the sweet wine refers to the grape harvest is going to be abundant, and the flowing with milk will be referred to the cattle that's produce milk, like cows and sheep and goats and so forth. Shittim is a valley that's on the border between Moab and Israel. And Shittim actually means acacias. And acacias grow in very dry, arid land. So this implies that the blessings and the water is going to flow from Jerusalem all the way out to the other countries even, and water them as well, into the arid, dry deserts surrounding Israel. Zephaniah 3:13, the remnant of Israel will do no wrong and tell no lies, nor will a deceitful tongue be found in their mouths, for they will feed and lie down with no one to make them tremble. Shout for joy, O daughter of Zion, shout in triumph, O Israel. Rejoice and exult with all your heart, O daughter of Jerusalem. Yahweh has taken away his judgments against you. He has declared away your enemies. He has cleared away your enemies. The King of Israel, Yahweh, is in your midst. You will fear disaster no more. You read through the Old Testament, and there's a lot of bad things said about Israel as far as their lying and being deceitful people. But when they enter into that new covenant, Yahweh gives them a new heart. All that lying is going to end. They're going to be a truthful, honest people. And they're going to, of course, fear no disaster anymore once again. And Yahweh himself is going to dwell in the midst of Israel. And for thousands of years, they've been dwelling apart from Yahweh. They had no priest, they had no Elohim. But the time is going to come when they're going to be dwelling in Yahweh's presence forever. Hallelujah. All right, I'm going to start transitioning into the New Testament now. And these New Testament verses will be more applicable to us as believers in Messiah Yeshua. But I want to start with these two verses here. Romans 8:18, the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is to be revealed to us. So Yahweh has so much more in store for us. It's not even written about yet. The glory that he has for us is going to be incredible. 2 Corinthians 4:16-18, so we do not lose heart, though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. For this light momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison, as we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient, but the things that are unseen are eternal. And most of these things that I'm about to tell you about are these unseen eternal things that are joys that we should be looking forward to. First one is Matthew 25:31. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne, and before him will be gathered all the nations, and he will separate one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. And he will place the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on his left. And then the king will say to those on his right hand, come, you who are blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. So the number one joy that lies ahead of us is Yeshua's return. This is called the blessed hope. And this is, I personally am looking forward to this more than anything else. Yeshua coming back to get me. And when he comes back to get me, that's when I and everyone else who believes in him is going to inherit the kingdom. So what does that mean to inherit the kingdom? Well, the kingdom is a gift. And when, after Yeshua returns and we're resurrected from the dead, that's when we receive this gift. It becomes ours. We own the kingdom. Okay? So this is a joy to look forward to. John 6:39, this is the will of him who sent me, that of all that he has given me, I will lose nothing, but raise it up on the last day. For this is the will of my Father, that everyone who beholds the Son and believes in him will have eternal life, and I myself will raise him up on the last day. So this is something else to look forward to, and that is a resurrection from the dead unto eternal life. And according to Yeshua, this resurrection is going to take place on the last day. So what does that mean, the last day? Well, some people mean the last day refers to the last day of the Jewish economy, which ended in the year 70 CE, 70 AD. And so they believe that Yeshua actually had his second coming in the year 70 and resurrected the dead in the year 70. Our week consists of 6 days of work and 1 day of rest. But there's a greater week in which we work for 6,000 years on earth and we have a 1,000-year rest during the millennium after Yeshua returns. So that's the way I'm looking at this. And I've made up this chart to help you understand this a little better. Yahweh began speaking through Yeshua, and that's that red line. He's just constantly speaking through Yeshua. We're not sure when he began speaking through Yeshua, whether it was at his baptism or even earlier. But it's an ongoing speaking to us. The green line comprises the last days. And the 3 blue boxes would comprise 3 1,000-year periods. So the last one, the third day, would be the millennium. The second day of the last days would be equivalent to our Friday. And the first day of the last days would be equivalent to our Thursday of the work week. So where that star is, that's where I'm believing the resurrection is going to take place. And when Yeshua said the last day, it's not clear whether he meant the last day of the work week or the last day of the week totally. So it's possible that he is going to resurrect the dead at the beginning of the millennium. It's not certain which it is, but that's how I'm viewing Yeshua resurrecting the dead on the last day. And if you disagree with any of this, we can talk about it over the campfire. Okay, 2 Corinthians 5:1, for we know that if the tent that is our earthly home is destroyed, we have a building from Elohim, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. 1 Corinthians 15:53, for this perishable body must put on the imperishable, and this mortal body must put on immortality.
Yes.
So one of the joys we have to look forward to is a new body
Hallelujah.
that is not subject
Hallelujah.
to sprained ankles or kidney stones or cancer or anything like that. Not even subject to death either. It's going to be imperishable and immortal. Matthew 25:21, his master said to him, well done, good and faithful slave. You were faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. Revelation 2:6, he who overcomes and he who keeps my deeds until the end, to him will I give authority over the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron. As the vessels of a potter are broken to pieces, as I also have received from my Father. And Revelation 3:21, he who overcomes, I will grant to him to sit down with me on my throne, as I also overcame and sat down with my Father on his throne.
Yes.
So, contrary to popular belief, we are not going to be sitting on a cloud playing harps. We are going to be given assignments. We're going to be ruling over cities or given charge of many things.
Yes.
It's not going to be a boring life or anything like that. It's something to look forward to. It's a joy to look forward to.
I like playing harps.
2 Timothy 4:7, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the course, I have kept the faith. In the future there is laid up for me the crown of righteousness, which the Master, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have loved his appearing. James 1:12, blessed is a man who perseveres under trial, for once he has been approved, he will receive the crown of life, which the Master has promised to those who love him. Also Revelation 2:10c, be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. 1 Peter 5:4, and when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the unfading crown of glory. We have a crown of righteousness, a crown of life, and a crown of glory. Whether these are all talking about the same kind of crown, or whether there's different crowns, it's not clear. Whether these are literal crowns or not, it's not clear. But one thing's clear is it's a gift from Yeshua that he's going to give to those who overcome and keep the faith in him until death. So I look forward to that. Catch up with my notes here. All right. Isaiah 65:17, for behold, I create a new heavens and a new earth, and the former things will not be remembered or come to mind. In 2 Peter 3:13, but according to his promise, we are waiting for a new heavens and a new earth in which righteousness dwells.
Yes.
Okay, I don't believe this has come yet, because when it does come, we're not going to remember this old earth. It's just going to be totally new. I don't take it literally. I don't believe that this earth that we're standing on is going to be totally dissolved and disappear, and the whole new earth is going to be made and we're going to be transported on there or anything like that. I believe this is all figurative language for just a whole new system of things in which Yeshua is reigning as a new heavens, and there'll be a whole new earth or people that he's reigning over. That's a whole other subject, though. Revelation 21:3, and I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of Elohim is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and Elohim himself shall be with them and be their Elohim. And Elohim shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. There shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. I cannot imagine living in a world where there's no death or sorrow or anything like that. It's just going to be so beautiful. And to top it off, Yahweh himself is going to be dwelling with us forever. Hallelujah. Revelation 2:7, he who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To him who overcomes, I will grant to eat of the tree of life, which is in the paradise of Elohim. In Revelation 22:14, blessed are those who wash their robes, so that they may have right to the tree of life, and that they may enter the city by the gates. Okay, it's not clear whether the tree of life is figurative or literal, but there are several verses in the book of Proverbs that talk about a tree of life. So Proverbs 3:18 says, wisdom is a tree of life. Proverbs 11:30 says, the fruit of righteousness is a tree of life. Proverbs 13:12 says, talks about when things that are hoped for are finally come, that's a tree of life. And Proverbs 15:4 says, a wholesome tongue is a tree of life. So it's not clear how those apply to this tree of life. I could see when things hoped for are finally come as being applicable, because that's what we're doing right now. We're looking at the verses that refer to joy that lies ahead. That's a hope of things that we're looking forward to. And when they finally come, it's like we're partaking of the tree of life. Revelation 2:11. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. He who overcomes will not be hurt by the second death. Revelation 20:14. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire. So we don't have to worry about the second death at all. And even because we're going to be resurrected unto eternal life. We don't have to fear this whatsoever. That's something to look forward to. Revelation 2:17, he who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To him who overcomes, to him I will give of the hidden manna, and I will give him a white stone and a new name written on the stone, which no one knows but he who receives it. So it's not revealed what this hidden manna is. It alludes back to the manna that fell in the wilderness that the Israelites ate throughout their wilderness journey, but it's not clear what this particular gift is going to be for us, but it's something to look forward to. And a white stone with a new name on it. I'm assuming that this will be a name that only Yahweh and Yeshua know, and whoever received the stone would know. And it's like, it's indicative of a very close, intimate, personal relationship. It's like a pet name for us, perhaps. But the relationship we're going to have with Yahweh and Yeshua at that time is going to be far more intimate than we have now. Revelation 3:5, he who overcomes will thus be clothed in white garments, and I will not erase his name from the book of life, and I will confess his name before my Father and before his angels. So I believe the white garments represent the same garment that's mentioned in Revelation 19:8, which is, and to her was granted that she should be arrayed in fine linen, clean and white, for the fine linen is the righteousness of the saints. So that verse is saying that these saints have a righteousness. This verse is saying that we're going to be clothed in white garments, so I believe that after we're resurrected from the dead, we are going to have our own righteousness. Right now we're clothed with Yeshua's righteousness, but once we're glorified via the resurrection, we will have our own righteousness. And also, of course, the book of life is probably the most important book in the universe. If your name's written in that book of life, you'll be living forever. Revelation 3:12, he who overcomes, I will make a pillar in the temple of my Elohim, and now he will not go out from it anymore, and I will write on him the name of my Elohim, and the name of the city of my Elohim, the New Jerusalem, which comes down out of heaven from my Elohim, and my new name. Well, this seems like a strange verse, because it's saying you're going to be a pillar in the temple of my Elohim, and you will not be allowed to go out from it anymore. That doesn't sound very enjoyable. You're stuck in this temple forever? But I don't believe this is talking about a literal temple. This is talking about a spiritual temple, which is comprised of all the believers in Messiah Yeshua. And each believer is spoken of as a building block in that temple of some sort. So some people might be a pillar in the temple. Some people might be the foundation, like the apostles, or some people might be just stones in the wall. It'll all be a spiritual temple that Yahweh is going to dwell in. Revelation 21:23, and the city has no need of the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of Elohim gives it light, and its lamp is the Lamb. By its light will the nations walk, and the kings of the earth will bring their glory into it. And its gates will never be shut by day, and there will be no night there. They will bring into it the glory and the honor of the nations, but nothing unclean will enter into it, nor anyone who does what is detestable or false, but only those who are written in the Lamb's book of life. So that's what gives you access to the city, having your name written in the Lamb's book of life through Yeshua. Most cities have their gates closed by night because of fear of enemies or whatever can attack the city. But this city will have their gates open all the time because there is no night there, and because there are no enemies to be concerned about. This is all peaceful, blissful eternity, except maybe at the end of the millennium when Satan is let loose and deceives the nations and they come against the city. All right, I'd like to conclude with this verse, Romans 15:13. May the Elohim of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing, so that by the power of the Holy Spirit you may abound in hope. Okay, so I hope that you will hide some of those verses in your heart, and then when you find yourself in times of trials and tribulations, you call upon those verses, and they'll help you to overcome and endure those trials and tribulations. Hag Sameach.